Most of the Season 7 patch hasn't drastically changed the game, but it has made some heroes much more viable. With some heroes much better and some heroes still as powerful as ever, here are the top heroes to solo carry with in Season 7. To get better at these top heroes, make sure to check out the link in the description for our GameLeap membership. There are loads of courses covering way more than these characters that will help you master all the skills you need to climb in the ranks. We've got different guides from different coaches on all sorts of critical game knowledge, so make sure to check it out if you're interested in improving further. Let's get started right away with Sombra, who's got a lot more solo kill potential in hand with her new rework. Her new abilities are definitely strong, and even though her kit is different, she definitely feels stronger than she was during Season 6. Let's go over what makes her so good at solo carrying and making the win happen for herself. Sombra's Virus and Hack are perfect for one-shotting a target, and her EMP makes it even easier. Even though the Virus isn't the easiest ability to hit, it won't take you long to get used to the projectile to make sure you can hit it on unsuspecting enemies. It's not even too hard to hit when against someone trying to dodge it, but it really is key. Because this is basically the only skill shot you need to hit reliably, it's really easy to just practice it. Solo kill potential is even better than before, without any drawbacks to diving someone together as a team. Sombra's skill ceiling is crazy high because of how much value you can get from communicating or even just pinging important targets than picking one to hack. The one thing you've got to be careful of is focusing tanks too much. Since now that EMP is much weaker and takes longer to charge, you're better off looking for picks on backline or even rival flankers like Tracer and Genji. If you focus on going for consistent kills as much as you can, you'll be able to have a solid chance at winning every fight if you go for the right target. Heroes with ultimates ready are a big priority, and you don't need to be a mastermind ult tracker to know that either, and even just focusing someone close to ultimate is value enough. Another thing to be careful of to make sure you keep carrying a Sombra is to stay near high grounds during your engage, so you can quickly escape with your translocator if you get pressured. It's the best way to survive, since teleporting away horizontally makes you a lot easier to chase and decloak. Stay alive and farm backline is your way to go, and playing selfishly going for solo kills is now a valid playstyle. Just make sure to do it often, staying active and not being AFK. That's what's going to make you the anti-carry, unable to go in when you have the opportunity and also when your team needs you most. Next up is Sigma, who definitely needs more skill and mechanics to pull off the carry, but when you can, he's unbelievably powerful. Sigma's damage is so high and has just enough survivability that with any help from a support, he becomes almost invincible without an entire team on top of him. Here's the best way to solo carry a Sigma. First off, a secret trick to hitting shots as Sigma is to treat the two hyperspheres as tracking shots. Instead of flicking them both independently, try to track the opponent's movements while you're firing them, since everyone will always try to dodge Sigma shots because of its low fire rate. If you track instead, their jarring movements will be a weakness instead, especially if you don't fire them as fast as possible, but instead take the time to read their movement and get closer. Hitting your accretion is also pretty easy. It's a big projectile and all you need is timing. Now that you can deal it, the way to abuse Sigma's damage and survivability is to float in between close and long range often, playing to spam chokes and alleys rather than corners to get confirmed damage and stay active. Try to avoid just playing for poke damage as well, but rather take the long 20-meter duel as often as you can, meeting your opponents in line of sight. There's a lot of survival tricks for Sigma, but the way to carry as him is to be really aggressive. But make sure to not waste your shield too much, never keeping it up for too long so you can always react with it, or push aggressive in close range to go for the one-shot combo, with your accretion and hyperspheres and finishing off with a melee. Next up is Baptiste, and I'm getting so tired of talking about him because he really is just that insane. Baptiste may have a lot of potential with his damage, but his basic solo carry potential straight up comes from his insane healing output and self-sustain. Baptiste doesn't even need to use his immortality field on his team that often if he's healing them enough, so staying ready to save it for yourself is totally fine. Positioning is all you really need to get a feel for to start farming as Baptiste. As Bap, you'll have to position differently depending on the team composition you're with. In more spammy matchups with a Sigma or an Orisa, you can stick further back, playing safe and making it hard for divers to find you. And for rush or brawler compositions, it's the opposite, where you'll want to stick close to your team so you don't get isolated while your team pushes forward. Carrying is all about keeping your team alive forever, and being far from your team to split the enemy's focus, or with your team so you can all benefit from the area effect healing and ammo radius are both two good options. One final tip to make the difference is to really play aggressive with your ultimate more often. Sometimes it's best to sit back with it, but when your team is walking up, place it on an aggressive corner that allows you to kill, or worst case, at least zone a lot of players, especially near the objective. Placing it too far back won't do enough for your team, and will sometimes seriously slow you down, since everyone's going to want to use the Matrix even if it's in a bad position. Playing aggressively with your ultimate and defensively with your neutral healing is a solid balance to hold, to both win team fights explosively and to keep your team from losing regularly. Next up is Sojourn, who's especially good in the meta right now. Sojourn's solo carry potential is all about building railgun charge and shooting it off often, looking for crucial damage on backline while suppressing the frontline with her disruptive shot and spam. Her damage is pretty high, with headshot potential on both her primary and secondary fire. She can melt tanks when she needs to. And with good aim, you can get more headshots with your railgun, which is no doubt one of the most clutch things you can do as the hero. But even without it, 130 instant damage is nothing to sneeze at, especially when followed up with your normal bullets and even a disruptive shot. Carrying with Sojourn is easy when you're under no stress, just laying down spam damage, building your rail, and moving from angle to angle to get a better sightline on whoever you want to hit. And similarly to Sombra, you'll definitely want to be picking your targets wisely. Heroes on the flank get demolished by a railgun hit because they're usually far from their healers, and likewise supports are a great target. Forcing them to heal each other instead of their team gives your team an advantage. Keep yourself flexible with who you're going to be focusing. As for staying alive to keep firing shots, Sojourn's power slide is amazing for both pushing aggressively for a fast pick or kiting back after already playing aggressively. You don't always have to be in the front line and vulnerable, but switching between angles is definitely the way to go, ready to commit hard after an advantage or fall back after applying solid pressure. For the second support, we have Illari, who's still the ideal support for keeping the game in your hands as opposed to trusting your teammates to get the job done for you. Illari's got the two most important things for a support to clutch up. She's got a crazy good primary fire that allows her to hit key shots to not only win duels, but to burn down tanks in frontline, and her secondary fire is perfect for burst healing to save teammates, which is usually more important than consistently pumping kills into them so they can push forward. Most good players won't always need consistent healing to push hard, and when they do, you can let your other support deal with it, since the priority as Illari is blasting damage downrange. Even with her heal laser nerfed, it's enough to help people out regularly, but just like Orissa's heat mechanic, make sure to not heal all the way to the end of your charge, since you'll be locked out of it and not be able to focus heal on anyone until it's back up again. Not ideal when someone's on the brink of death. But the simple truth is that her primary fire is just so good that if you're consistently firing it at targets within 30 meters, you'll be doing impactful damage and building your ultimate, which has crazy team-wide potential that we've all seen. Another DPS that is great at carrying games on his own is Soldier 76. He's a simple hero, but because his rifle is so strong, he's a lot better than most people realize. At 171 damage per second, he's got plenty of damage to dish out, to both tanks and other DPS alike. And when he's flanking, one-shotting supports isn't too hard either. One of the biggest merits as a solo carry hero that you can pick up and start farming right now is that he's super easy to get into. Just run and gun, taking a good position, and then raining down firepower. With 171 DPS and his 120 damage rocket, he's got an insanely fast time to kill, and it's all about using that on the best target possible. Being able to carry with Soldier requires mostly map knowledge, so familiarize yourself with flanks and high ground angles that you can take fast so you can deal quick lethal damage, staying ready to fall back in case you need to. But very often, you simply won't need to leave at all, since the healing station is more than enough to instantly win any duel or at least keep you alive for the entire duration, and help massively in a 1v2. He's similar to Sombra in the fact that his neutral is so strong that it doesn't matter too much that his ultimate is a bit weaker, but it's not a bad ultimate. There are just a lot of crazy abilities in the game that counter it more than others, so make sure to use the visor often, laying down pressure with your team, and not necessarily from an off angle either. Swinging with your team using your visor is great for zoning, since anyone trying to kill you will be immediately greeted with the quick decay of your visor damage, one-shotting them in almost 1 second. He's a simple hero with simple value. For old or new players, he's great to start carrying right now. Finally, the other best tank for solo carrying your games is Junker Queen, who has such an advantageous matchup into most tanks that she can carry games simply by being an effective counterpick. Most counterpicks are only good against stubborn players or one-tricks who only play one hero, but Queen is so good into so many tanks and great at killing backline in duels that she's really hard to counter and deal with. Zarya was a good option, but she's been nerfed now, not able to build as much charge and much easier to take advantage of in the lapses between her bubbles. As for Orisa, she can counter a Queen who's always trying to push aggressively, being speared and spun when she tries to do so, but when the Orisa herself has to push, she'll be taking a lot more damage from the Queen and her team. Queen's range is really flexible. She doesn't always have to push and can stay at range if she wants to. With insane bleed effects that keep you alive and burst damage at close range, and a solid poke at mid-range, she's really great for so many situations. Her knife hitbox is also big enough that it doesn't take too much practice to get used to it, and with a short cooldown, it's perfect for making small plays outside of the big ultimate power spikes that makes a lot of other characters really good. She's a top pick for sure, being really flexible and able to do so many things at once, and with a high mechanical skill ceiling, you can definitely get a lot done. That's it for the top heroes to solo carry with in Season 7. Let me know what your honorable mentions are in the comments, and I'll see you next time.